Welcome back to the Transfer Portal Podcast, presented by No Context Football. I am Adam. I'm with my fellow Texan and Dallas native, Jake. How are we doing, Jake?
Doing pretty good.
Doing good. I see you got your A&M on. I got my Texas on, but we're going to keep it civil today.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk about some Big 12. Excited. Season's right around the corner. How are we feeling?
Yeah, I feel good. The Big 12, I can't think of a conference that's more up for grabs than the Big 12 by, anybody that's looking to be on the top half this year. So, it's really pretty much anybody's game. So excited to discuss.
Yeah. So, Big 12, got to talk about it. Probably the biggest news in the Big 12 was Lincoln Riley abruptly leaving Oklahoma, going to USC. Oklahoma's new coach is Brent Venables. Dylan Gabriel at quarterback. How do we feel about Oklahoma? Is it more of a rebuild or a reload? I kind of feel that they reloaded. I like what they're doing. Brent Venables is a great defensive coach. Dylan Gabriel is a proven quarterback. We'll see if he can kind of recapture that match that he had at UCF. But they still have Marvin Mims. They have great running backs. They might have the best defense in the Big 12 now. So I think it's more of a reload than a rebuild. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that Brent Venables is bringing something different to the Big 12 that, a lot of teams nowadays, we'll talk about that later, are shifting to, they want to go full air raid, offensive oriented, the classic Big 12 structured team. But Brent Venables is a nice breath of fresh air, I think, in Norman, just because he brings, one, the culture. I think that's been a big talking point from everything that we've seen about him. He is pushing that real hard right now, especially after Lincoln Riley's departure. Kind of left the program in a bit of a shaky spot that it hadn't been in quite some time, ever since, Bob Stoops left the program. We're getting close to a decade on that. So, it's been pretty solid for Oklahoma as far as like coaching stability. So this is, certainly something that shook them, but I like the move a lot. I think it's a reload and it's a long-term thing too. I think that, they're really putting themselves in a position to be successful, not only this year, but also going forward.
Yeah, I'm glad what you said about the culture, because that's what I was thinking too. I was reading that 4-star, he's a 4-star or 5-star wide receiver. They change this every week.
Yeah.
Jonte Cooks from Dallas, he loved Oklahoma. He's an Oklahoma fan, he's a Sooner fan, and Oklahoma didn't want him because he didn't fit their culture. And I admire that. Like, you're trying to build something, so don't get the best player per se. Get players that fit into what you're envisioning. What you're trying to do. And I think it's going to pay off for him in the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're grabbing guys that are going to work best in your system and around your coaching staff, and that really fit with the guys in your locker room, that's when you have the best chance to have success, is when you have the confidence of all those guys up and there's no, not speaking against him or anything like that, but if they felt that there could be any conflict in the locker room, I can't say that I blame the staff for not wanting them to be a part of it, because they are trying to build something that is, solely for them. And, it's okay to be selfish in college football, and it's okay to not necessarily want every player. You want the guys that are going to fit best in your room and with what you're trying to build.
Yeah, I agree. And I like what they're doing. Another team made a lot of good moves too, a lot of big moves. Got to talk about them. Dear to my heart, my Texas Longhorns. First thing I got to ask, Jake, is Texas back?
I don't know that you can answer that question right now, and I'm being totally fair about that, because it's kind of like the saying in any other sport that those, from professional sports at least, draft picks look great until they turn to names. It's the same thing in college football. It even stands true for A&M right now. All those recruits that we got in the 22 class, they look great right now, but now they're names, and now they're going to be on the field. So, Texas is going to have to take that top offensive line class that they had in 2022, put that on the field to protect their shiny new quarterback, Quinn Ewers, and the one coming in next year, in Arch Manning. So, I think that Texas has a lot to prove this year. If people thought that last year was important for Steve Sarkisian, this year is 10 times more important, because they have to show a step towards legitimacy. They have to. And, I think that we'll get the answer to that question pretty quickly. Is Texas back? I'm not going to say after week 2 because it is Alabama, and I don't think that anybody is really expecting Texas to win that game. Um, but, I think that we'll have that question answered fairly quickly as we get into the season.
I was hoping to get you on the record in a Texas A&M shirt saying Texas was back. It's gonna be great, but
Not getting it out of me this time.
I try. I do agree that it's just way too early to tell. I'm a little worried that it's almost too high expectations for the Longhorns this season because I feel like they're just way too young. You have a first-year starting quarterback, a very young offensive line who a lot of them are going to have to play because we weren't very good. The skill position wise, we have some veterans. Defense is still pretty shaky. Rome wasn't built in a day. Not going to be back in one season, but it's a good start. And I like what we're doing.
Absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't say out of the skill positions that y'all have, I would say there's probably no team that has better skill players outside of Columbus or Tuscaloosa at the moment than in Austin with the Longhorns. I mean, even as an Aggie, it pains me to say that, but it's the reality. They have a very good program that they are building. And clearly Steve Sarkisian has shown that he wants to commit to building a culture that we've already talked about with OU. Sark wants to build his own culture, and I think he wants to get rid of what people have said about him in the past. From his days at Alabama or when he was in the NFL, he wants to start over here in Austin, and I think that he has shown that he's a very good recruiter. Clearly, picking up some of these big names, some names that we would have liked to have had in maroon and white, but I like what they're building down there. As much as again that hurts me to say that, but yeah, I think that there is definitely reason to have optimism in Austin for the 5th, 6th straight year now.
Yeah, I'm excited, man. I'm ready. I just wanted to start. I think a win for Texas is 9 wins. If you can get to 10, I think that you can't be mad at that.
All right, I think we should pump the brakes on 10 wins though.
Yes, I agree.
I think if we're setting reasonable expectations, I think a good season for y'all, obviously, like getting into the bowl game, that's like if you win 6 games, that's another failure. Anything under 8 is a failure, but reasonable expectation, I would put at 8 wins this year. Like you said, it's a very young room. I mean, you're getting a whole hall of offensive linemen that have never seen a snap in college football. You have a quarterback that hasn't thrown a single pass in college football. A lot of guys that are going into a new scheme because, let's face it, the Longhorns utilize the portal more so than maybe any other team in college football, especially at skill positions. So it's going to be a lot of adjusting, but so that's my reasoning for putting the expectation at 8 wins. But anything more than that, absolutely an exceptional season.
Yeah, you mentioned a new quarterback. We got a lot of new starting quarterbacks in the Big 12. And I feel like that kind of it makes this conference so unpredictable because you don't have that stability at the quarterback position. Like you got Quinn Ewers at Texas, maybe. We don't know if he's won the position yet. I'm not going to jump the gun. JT Daniels, former USC QB, he's at West Virginia. Obviously, you have Dylan Gabriel, who's proven, at Oklahoma. Adrian Martinez, someone who I really like. I'm not going to talk about who doesn't, but
yeah,
I really like Adrian Martinez at Kansas State. And then you got Blake. Is Chapin or is it Sharpen? I think it's Chapin.
I think it's Chapin.
Blake
Chapin at Baylor. I'm really excited about him. I think he could definitely be a big player this year. Obviously, taking over for Gary Bohannon. It's not going to be the easiest transition, I think, for him because Baylor did really rely on their defense last year. So he has a lot to live up to, especially if he wants to take Baylor back to winning the Big 12 again. Which obviously, this will definitely not be the first time that this is mentioned in this video, but hats off to Dave Aranda for the excellent job that he has done so far in Waco, because year 2 last year, winning the Big 12 title from a program that was just shaken by scandal, for years. Getting rid of the Art Briles stain on the Baylor football program. It's big for them. So yeah, I'm excited to watch Blake Shapen take the field this year and see what he can do.
Yeah, I am too. He's one of my breakout players because Baylor, they lost a lot of their skill position players last year. And I was shocked that Dave Aranda named Blake Shapen the starting QB, and it was like March. You normally don't see that. You normally it'll be around in August, late August, maybe not right before the first game. So that way you can still have Gary Bohannon as a backup if you really need it, if it doesn't work out. But Aranda, I mean, if he really likes him, and we all know he's a great coach, if he is that confident in him that he just, Gary, you can leave, we got our guy, then I'm excited. I think Baylor's going to be. I got to win in the Big 12 again. I don't know if you do, but
I do not have Baylor winning the Big 12. But yeah, we'll get into that. I just wanted to talk more about some of these new quarterbacks going in. Dillon Gabriel for me is the guy who can do it all, and OU has the studs around him to make big plays happen. Obviously, Marvin Mims, who if you've never seen Marvin Mims play football, you're truly missing out. I mean, watch him in the Red River game against your Longhorns last
oh
year.
my gosh,
He was incredible. Theo Weiss, receiver out of Allen, Texas, saw him beat up on my
yes,
high school when I was in high school. Kid is awesome, athletic. He can get up there. And, I think that there's a lot of reasons to really be excited about what Dillon Gabriel can bring to the OU offense. And, it really does suck for them because they lost, you lost your two best quarterbacks. I mean, and it's by a pretty wide margin in Spencer Rattler and obviously Caleb Williams. Not so shocking that Caleb Williams went off to LA with Lincoln, but Dillon Gabriel I think does have a lot to live up to, and the expectations are pretty high because OU is a storied program who has been winning the Big 12 fairly consistently now. So he does have a lot to live up to, and I'm excited to see if he can deliver because I do believe he can.
you think he's the best coach? I mean, the best quarterback in the Big 12?
I don't know that I can make that determination right now. There's too many new quarterbacks entering the Big
Mm-hmm.
12. Not a whole lot of returning guys, quality returning guys, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him up there with Quinn Ewers, Spencer Sanders, maybe a Max Dugan by the end of the season.
Next.
Um, so yeah, it's honestly going to be a toss up for whoever's the best quarterback, but for me, it's Dillon Gabriel.
Yeah, I'm excited about Dillon. Another new transfer I'm really excited about. We talked about it earlier. Is Adrian Martinez. I think sometimes you just need a new start, and it didn't work for him at Nebraska. I think he fits right into what Kansas State wants to do. Is he as good as Skylar Thompson? We'll find out. But they have arguably a top 3 running back in the country in Deuce Vaughn, who we both love. I know that.
Mm,
Adrian Martinez can run the ball as good as any quarterback in the country. His turnovers, that's his problem. He's real shaky with the turnovers, but
yeah,
maybe having Deuce Vaughn there, it takes a little bit of a load off of him. The Big 12 defense is not that good. It's not as tough as the Big 10. So on paper, it should be easier for him. I think keep an eye on Adrian Martinez.
absolutely. I think that the new change of scenery for him can be huge, especially because I think that a lot of playing quarterback is mental because,
Mm-hmm.
you're having to make these decisions and the pressure is going to be off of him a lot more in Manhattan than it was in Lincoln. So, I think that he is, I don't even think that the expectations are that high on him. They want to go in there and, Kansas State wants to play better football and play up to a standard that they haven't, reached in quite some time. So, if Adrian Martinez is able to come in there and deliver, I think that there is excitement or there is reason for excitement in Manhattan, especially if he limits those turnovers because Deuce Vaughn does not let go of the football. Deuce Vaughn does not fumble. And if you can create a passing game that complements his running ability, you've got a potential to build a very special offense there. So I'm excited to see what Adrian Martinez can do, but I'm definitely not as high on him as you are.
No, he's one. We mentioned Blake as my breakout player. Adrian Martinez is one of my other ones. And my last one, you mentioned him from Allen High School, Theo Weiss. I think Oklahoma's going to be looking for that second wide receiver to kind of work off Marvin Mims. Dylan Gabriel, one thing he can do, he can spin the football. You know, we'll see how his legs, if his legs hold up, but he can
Yeah.
still throw the football. So I think he'll be the guy to kind of step in and, Marvin Mims, he's going to attract a lot of attention. You got to have somebody to compliment him. I think it's going to be Theo Weiss.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I went for a bit of a wild card with my one of my breakout players. I chose Donovan Smith of Texas Tech. This
I
is a
like
player.
him.
This is a player who did not receive a ton of playing time in 2021, with Tyler Shuck, receiving a lot of snaps. I think that Donovan Smith has a chance to step up this year and really be able to play well. We saw him play in the bowl game against Mississippi State. He played excellent. And he was making a lot of good throws that he should make, that Texas Tech quarterbacks ever since really Patrick Mahomes left were not able to make. So I do think that Donovan Smith has the chance to really become his own this year and make something about Texas Tech stand out, other than the fact that they were the school that Patrick Mahomes used to go to. So
you know,
yeah, I think that there's reason to be excited with him.
Texas Tech, I mean, they haven't announced him as the quarterback, right? It's still a
Nah,
battle.
it's still up in the air, but I think that Donovan Smith wins the battle. I think he checks the boxes on a lot of his intangibles. He's a guy who he does have the arm talent. He is able to get outside of the pocket, and I'm excited to see what he can bring. I do think that he wins that quarterback battle. I don't see much in Tyler Shuck, so I can't say that I would expect to see him on the field this year. But yeah, Donovan Smith, that is one of my breakout players and a bit of a wild card.
That is a wild card. I hope he wins because I think I like watching him play. I've seen some of his stuff, and he looks electric.
Absolutely. And not to mention the fact that they did bring in Kitley from Western Kentucky to help lead the offense there in Lubbock. So
Mm-hmm.
along with Joey McGuire's new staff and what they're building there, I do think that Texas Tech is a team that is extremely boomer bust this year. I wouldn't expect too much out of them, but if enough things go right, and honestly, that can be said for pretty much any team in the Big 12 this year outside of Kansas. If everything goes right for them, you could see them, heck, maybe putting up, 7, 8 wins is the most I can see them doing. But watch out for Texas Tech.
Yeah, yeah. Look, I'm not too high on Tech this year, but I love where they're going. I think if they could have got Quinn Ewers, would like them a lot more, but
All I'm
chose for
saying is
somewhere else.
Quinn Ewers was never going to be going to Lubbock.
You don't think
It-
so?
no,
I was worried. I'm not gonna lie, I was worried.
I honestly, I mean, I honestly, I don't know why A&M was even in his top 3. A&M's got their quarterback situation figured out, so not sure why he included us. But I thought for sure he was a lock to Texas from the second that he had announced that he was in the portal from Ohio State. I knew he was going to be wearing burnt orange, so very, very expected. But yeah, Tech's, they're doing a lot of things better. They've been able to attract a lot of better recruits than they have. I know that Tech fans were celebrating because there was a moment where they were number 1 in recruiting,
I
all
remember
3
that.
stars. But that's definitely something for people in Lubbock to be optimistic about. That's not basketball related. So
Yeah. Yeah. So we're talking about Tech. The Big 12 media, they released their standings. They had Tech 9. I go from top to bottom. Tell me what you think. Baylor was in first with 17 first place votes. Oklahoma with 12. Oklahoma State with 9. Texas in fourth with 2. And we got Kansas State with 0, but they were in fifth. Iowa State in sixth with 1 first place vote. I don't know what that guy was thinking. He might have been too much tequila, I guess. Then rounding out the bottom 4 is TCU, West Virginia, Texas Tech, and then, of course, our Kansas Jayhawks. What are we thinking about that?
yeah. Well, first of all, it needs to be said. Do not put any stock into any of those rankings that come out before the season starts, especially in the Big 12. There's no conference where there are more coin flip games this year, games that could be decided by one little thing, than in the Big 12. So, the top 4, I largely do agree with. I personally, why don't we run down our standings that we've set out for the teams real quick? What do you have for us?
All right, for me, I have Baylor at number 1. I just think they have the best coach. I think that they had the most stability. Oklahoma at 2 because Dylan Gabriel. I think he in their schedule isn't that hard, so I think they can get that at 2. Texas at 3. We talked about them; they're just not there yet. I got a surprise Kansas State at 4, and I almost had them 3 because I'm really high on Kansas State. Oklahoma State at 5, West Virginia at 6. Um, Oklahoma State, West Virginia, I think you can swap them. Then Iowa State at 7, TCU at 8, Tech at 9, Kansas at 10.
Okay, yeah, we definitely do differ in some spots. For me, I have OU, Baylor, Texas, Oklahoma State, Iowa State, West Virginia, Kansas State, TCU, Tech, and Kansas at the bottom. I do not have Kansas winning a single Big 12 game this year. I cannot put any faith into the Jayhawks actually being able to put together a team that can stop another team from scoring. I do think that Kansas does have potential at the quarterback position. I am a big fan of Jalen Daniels at quarterback. I think that he is actually competent, and you know, Kansas really struggled last year. They were the worst team in the country at moving the chains and getting first downs and just being able to move the ball. But unfortunately, without a defense, there's no way I can put any stock into Kansas being able to put together one Big 12 win. However, they will be able to pick up, an FCS win um, or two. I believe that they play Tennessee Tech, I believe is how they start their season. So, hopefully Kansas will be riding on a high, being undefeated. But last year, as we saw, they did lose to South Dakota State. So, not a good look. So
Yeah, so we're kind of the same. We got Baylor, Oklahoma. To me, tell me if you agree. To me, they're the two clear, like top 2 teams in the Big 12. I think maybe Texas, but we just don't know. So I think going in, you have to put Baylor, Oklahoma. I have them clear 1 and 2. Who's better? I have no clue. I just picked Baylor just because.
yeah. I mean,
But
Baylor's defense last year was exceptional. It was absolutely exceptional. They won the Big 12,
mhm.
deservingly so, in an epic game against Oklahoma State that showed all the reasons why they deserve to win, and that's because they can wreak havoc on defense. I do expect some regression this year because, they did lose some key starters from last year. Overall, though, they do have that same, returning lineup. And I think OU is my number one simply because I believe that a lot of the players on their offense are a year older now. Theo Weiss hasn't really seen much playing time since he arrived at OU, but I would really look to see him, putting his foot down and becoming, a star in the OU offense. Picking up the offensive coordinator from Ole Miss, whose name is escaping me. I believe Jeff Letty maybe was his name. I believe.
Yes, he
Um,
was Dylan Gabriel's OC at, wasn't he at UCF?
at UCF.
Yeah.
I believe that there is some connection there, but things like that help. When you're in a place, even when it's new, but you have your coaching that you've had before, that sense of familiarity can really help with the confidence of quarterback. And so, I think that OU and especially if their defense takes a step up and they are able to play games, away from the stereotype of the Big 12 where, people say it's no defense. It's all just, the race to see who can put up 40 first. Um, I think that those are the two clear cut teams. And I wouldn't be shocked if Texas tried to creep into that, but I just don't know that with all the young talent that they're ready to make that jump into the top tier of the Big 12 just yet. But I would look for them to absolutely improve from what was a disastrous last season for the Longhorns.
Hopefully so. So let's you're a betting guy.
Yeah. Well,
So
not often.
not
I live
us.
in Texas,
Yes,
so
yes. You like you
uh
like you like looking at
oh
the
yeah,
odds and
yeah.
stuff.
I'll look at the lines. Yeah.
Yes. So what are you thinking when you look at the lines? I think Oklahoma is a favorite right now at plus 170.
hmm
Um, then Texas at 290, and then it's a kind of a big drop off. You have Oklahoma State next, and Baylor both around 600.
Yeah. For me, it's Baylor plus 600 from DraftKings to win the Big 12. For me, that's a lot of good value there. And because I'm honestly surprised that Baylor's odds weren't higher. To me, plus 600 seems like a steal for where we're at the moment. So, for me, I have that much confidence in Baylor to be able to make it back to Arlington this year. Um, I don't really put a lot of stock. I wouldn't put down a bet on Oklahoma at the moment, just because there is a lot of uncertainty there. It's kind of the same deal with Texas. We're just gonna have to see how the first few weeks play out, how the team's playing. By then, all these odds would have shifted. So what I'm saying now is irrelevant. But if it were me at this moment, I would bet Baylor plus 600 to win the Big 12 as my favorite line.
The more I look at it, the more I like this Kansas State plus 1,600. I know
All
you're
right,
not high.
let's hear your rationale for this one, because bro, you've been watching those 5 minutes of Adrian Martinez highlights too much, because it's not
Maybe
gonna
I
happen.
have. I don't know. I think they have a really good running back, and I'm by no means am I picking them to be the favorite. If you got a little extra change, why not toss it on Kansas State? They play fun football. They're on the come up. I think it's so much parity in the Big 12. I don't think it's going to be a clear, like record wise. I think a lot of these teams are going to be close, especially some of these teams have tough out of conference games. So,
but back to your point though on Kansas State though. So you're saying that because they have a good running back, they can get up there. Y'all had Bijan Robinson. Y'all still have him, and y'all went 5-7.
Yes. I'm not saying it's not a good case. I'm just saying that.
All right.
Especially if Kansas State, they play at Oklahoma. I think that's a Big 12 opener. They can win that. They kind of get a little momentum going. I don't hate it. So I'm saying I don't hate it.
Yeah, I mean, like you were saying, there's so much in the mid tier of the Big 12 this year, and these are my teams that I feel could be switched in any order. I think that you can put Oklahoma State, Iowa State, West Virginia, Kansas State, and TCU. I mean, those 5 teams right there could legitimately end up in any order of the standings this year. I don't know what that'll be. For me, the 2 worst teams going into this year are probably, I mean, Kansas absolutely, unequivocally the worst team in the Big 12. And there's not really any huge sign of improvement incoming. So, for me, easy 0-9 right there. I have Texas Tech at 3-6 in the conference this year. I just don't think that Joey McGuire's squad this year is going to be quite ready to step up and be able to, compete in the Big 12 in the way that those Tech teams did with Mike Leach. And back in the late 2000s, I just don't see those Red Raiders coming back quite yet. But a team that I feel like could surprise is Iowa State. I do believe that Iowa State could surprise. Obviously, the loss of Brock Purdy and Breece Hall does hurt quite a bit.
Tough.
But man, Matt Campbell's he preaches defense. Matt Campbell does. And it's kind of been the same way that I think that Brent Venables is doing right now. I mean, obviously, Venables has the whole resume of, maybe one of the best defenses ever at Clemson in 2018. But, Matt Campbell is all about the defense, and I think that there is a lot of potential for them to really step up. And beginning with that is going to be Will McDonald, the fourth, who I have as, one of the best players in the Big 12, if not the entire country. This is a guy who's improved year over year, racking up sack totals. And I think he could even push for 15 sacks this year after finishing with 11.5, I believe, last year. So Will McDonald, Iowa State, if there's any team that I feel like could surprise everybody this year, it is Iowa State in the Big 12.
Yeah, I was looking at them, and I was looking at their schedule. They open up against Baylor. I think that's tough as a conference opener.
Definitely is.
Then they have to go to Texas, to Oklahoma State, and to TCU. I just don't see it.
If they here's the thing though, if they pull out and win 2 of those games, huge success out of that opening stretch, and then your schedule gets easier as you go down the line, and you're playing some of these coin flip games that take you on late into the season. Obviously, I mean, the only game I can honestly say with 100% confidence out of the Big 12 that they win is against Kansas.
Of course.
Again, don't see Kansas doing anything this year. In Lawrence, don't turn on the TV when your team's playing. It won't be pretty. But I could see them winning against Texas Tech. As you know, we were talking before this. It would not shock me to see, Texas is due for one of these just bad games. I mean, every team has them. Unless you're in Alabama or an Ohio State, or actually not even a Clemson anymore. That doesn't work. But no, Texas did, kind of stumble against Iowa State, granted with a lot different team, but this year wouldn't shock me if the Cyclones beat the Longhorns again. I believe, are y'all playing in Ames this year?
No, it's in Austin.
Okay, it's in Austin.
This is
All right,
Austin the
well,
week after the Red River, so it could be.
yeah. So depending on the way that Red River goes, could shape how that game goes. Because Texas loses in devastating fashion, they're going to be fired up and wanting to murder the Cyclones the next week. So, or Texas wins, could come in overconfident. But for me, Iowa State is the team I would look out for to do something much more than their expectations are, except for that one guy who gave them a first place vote, which I don't know what you're smoking, but I'm not even that high on the Cyclones.
Yeah, I agree they could lose to Texas. Texas' problem is they tend to play to the level of their opponents. They play LSU when Joe Burrow's there, arguably LSU's hardest game, and then they'll go and lose to Kansas the next week. So
yeah, I mean,
wouldn't shock me
it's
if they lose.
Yeah, I mean, Texas, again, very difficult program to forecast how they're going to be doing this year, and a lot of it depends on Quinn Ewers. I mean, I don't see Hudson Card making that run for the top spot. I just
Think it's
don't
all for
think.
show.
I think so. I think it's pretty much set in stone at this point that it will be Quinn Ewers who takes the field in y'all's opener. But Hudson Card, thanks for coming out, man. I don't see himself for the future in Austin for sure. Wouldn't be shocked to see him hit the portal.
Yeah, I wouldn't, especially with Arch on the way.
Yeah.
So let's go to awards. I'll give you my awards. Offensive Player of the Year, I have Bijan Robinson. I think he's best player in the conference, not in the country because it's a guy named Will Anderson in Alabama. But Defensive Player of the Year, I went with Dylan Dole from Baylor. I think he was second in the Big 12 in tackles. The guy was in front of him was also on Baylor. He's now in the NFL, so he's next man up. I like him a lot. Newcomer of the Year, I think this is pretty much obvious. It's Dylan Gabriel. I don't see how it's not, unless Quinn Ewers lights it up. But.
Yeah, that for me was that for me was my toss up between those two. My awards are fairly similar to you. Well, actually, we have two of the same. I have Bijan Robinson winning Offensive Player of the Year. I don't think it's going to be that close either, unless Deuce Vaughn really makes a run for it, which he definitely could. Between Bijan and Deuce, the Big 12 is looking good with running backs, two of the best in the entire country, if not the two best in the entire country in the Big 12. And then at Defensive Player of the Year, I went with Will McDonald IV. Mentioned him earlier. He is a guy who can wreak havoc on the defensive side of the ball, get to the quarterback, one of the best edge rushers in the country. Some sites like Pro Football Focus don't necessarily like him as much, but I'm high on Will McDonald. Look for him to be, entering your local backfield. So, for me, that was pretty easy. And then for a newcomer, I have Dylan Gabriel, just like you. I just think that he has that maturity that he gained from playing at UCF. And, I think that he's going into a really good situation, having his old coach in Letty be with him at Oklahoma. But again, toss up between him and Quinn Ewers for me. We just don't know enough about Ewers at this point. We've seen him play in the spring game. He played excellent, all that, but it's a heck of a lot different than it is stepping out into a college game at live speed. And then for me, Coach of the Year is going to be Brent Venables. I think that OU, in my eyes, outside of my betting eyes, I think that OU will win the Big 12. So, for me, Brent Venables coming in, changing the culture, changing the whole work of the team, becoming more defensive minded, quite the stark change from Lincoln Riley's system. So, for me, Brent Venables, Coach of the Year.
Yeah, I went with Dave Aranda because I think Baylor wins the Big 12. Both great coaches. I'm really high on Dave Aranda. I'm also happy he stayed at Baylor because I think it's good for the Big 12 and the conference. He might regret it now that UCLA is going to the Big 10, but we'll see.
Yeah. And by the way, if you're looking for realignment talk on this video, not the place for it. It's not going to
No.
happen. We're talking about 2022 and the Big 12. So if you want to read about that, go read some of our other articles. It's not this video. But anyway, back to this. Yeah. And so, I'd like to go over some of the key games, some of the biggest games going on in the Big 12 this season that you think could really shape how the conference goes any which way.
My first one, I know I keep talking about them. Kansas State at Oklahoma. It's a Big 12 opener. I just really want to see what they can do. I think that's going to be their first challenge, and that's when the key game. It may not be a key game in the grand scheme of things, but for me, I'm really high on Kansas State this year. I want to see what they got against arguably the best team in the conference, Oklahoma. I think we both going to have Oklahoma versus Texas. The Red River rivalry never disappoints. I've never seen a bad one.
both teams could be two of the worst in the conference, and I would still tune in. It's an amazing game, regardless of whether you care about each team or not. I don't have a rooting interest in the game. I hate both teams a lot.
As you should.
Yeah, I mean, but it's an excellent football. So that's also on my list. I think that game could do a lot for shaping what teams will end up in Arlington at the end of the season. It's a game that neither team can really afford to lose, not only for just the wins and losses, but also just for the impact on what it does. I think that game has a big impact on recruiting. If people
Yes.
see OU come in and beat Texas with all of Sark's shiny new toys on the field, I think that's gonna it might shake up the recruiting game a little bit, especially with guys that have Kansas and Texas, or sorry, not Kansas, absolutely not. OU and Texas in their top five, or however they have it. So that game will definitely impact the entire Big 12, send shockwaves throughout college football. Always does, though.
And my last one was Baylor at Texas. It's the last game of the season. I think that could shape who ends up in Arlington. I think Baylor and Oklahoma, they're going to be fighting for that 1-2, but another team, Texas, could creep in there. They could be 5-3. Oklahoma could be 5-3. Texas might have to win that game to get in, or something like that. So
yeah,
those are my three key games I'm gonna be looking forward to. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. Just like you, I said before, I have OU versus Texas, Red River, of course, and then this one's a personal one, for which me and Aggies alike will all be tuning in for the University of Texas at Austin versus the Kansas
Oh
Jayhawks.
my gosh, revenge.
I not so fast, my friend. You guys, no. You guys got to get that monkey off your back, because it
Yes.
is going to be a thing. I mean, as Nagy, I love it. All the shit posting on the internet about Texas. The jokes definitely ran its course by now, I think. So I just want the games to get played at this point, so that we can stop all the memes and just get on the field. But no, I think it'll definitely be a very watched game. That might be the only chance that Kansas has at seeing something resembling a sellout. And that's
Yeah,
if a third of the stadium is wearing burnt orange. So
I will
um,
say that from like I have a friend he's a GA at Texas. That's a game that they're all looking forward to
oh, I'm
because
sure.
they've heard the jokes. They've all heard the jokes. You can't run away from it. Other than Oklahoma, they're gonna be they might have that game circled, which is weird. Like, why do you have Kansas circled on your schedule?
It's a
But
big confidence booster. I mean, if
it's
y'all go
like,
in if y'all go in and win that game, I mean, that will be huge for just every single Longhorn out there that has been suffering at the hands of the Kansas Jayhawks. I mean, we're not going to talk about the game last year. It happened. Lost to the Jayhawks at home. It happened, but yeah, excited for that. And then for me, this game could be one that shapes what goes on in Arlington. It's Bedlam, OU versus OSU. Some of the best football of the entire season across college football happens in Bedlam.
That last
Uh,
game last year was insane.
Absolutely crazy. Um, Absolutely crazy football. Oklahoma State pulled out the win in the final seconds when OU was driving. Excellent football. No matter your rooting interest in the game, I think I know who you were probably going for in that game. Um,
Not
but
Oklahoma.
yeah, definitely not Oklahoma. Yeah, me as well. So excellent football this year should be shaping up to be absolutely excellent as well. Especially because OSU is another team that really likes to play defense. OSU got to the position that it was in last year largely off the back of its defense. And so, they were really tested against OU last year. So it'll be interesting to see if Dylan Gabriel can go in there and put up some big numbers. And, that's a game that could result in one of those teams going to Arlington and the other one, their dreams of winning the conference are dead. But it's not the last week of the season because the Big 12 has a fairly weird schedule, I would say, and not finishing out their conference schedule with rivalry week. But
It's weird.
yeah, so yeah, those are my three big games for this year. Um, so one thing I want to pick your brain about is that as a Longhorn, what will matter to you more this year? Do you have the games circled on your count? Would you rather win both of the games that we talked about in Red River and Kansas, or lose by a touchdown to Alabama?
Oh,
You lose both if you pick
I would.
lose.
Oh yeah, we can't lose to Kansas again. I would rather beat Oklahoma and Kansas for sure,
Okay, all right.
and then lose to Alabama.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what the line is on the Alabama game. It's probably, I mean, I will probably, if I do choose to bet on the game, I will probably be picking Texas to cover because those spread, I don't think that it's going to be the absolute massacre of the century that some people think that it will be.
I don't think so
Um,
either.
I'd like to see it that way. It's the only time that I will ever root for Nick Saban is if he's going against Texas.
After what he said about your school, you're not gonna.
Dude, I, I cannot pick Texas. I can't.
There's no school that you would pick against.
No, I will pick any single school against Texas.
Dang, that's fair.
But I am picking y'all to cover that week because I don't think it's going to be an absolute massacre. I think that y'all will lose by like 3 touchdowns. So that's that. But yeah, so one thing that I'd like to get to talking about is sort of, some of the players that might, break out this year. So do you have anybody in mind that you were talking about? I know that you were talking about a couple of them earlier.
Um, I think Deuce Vaughn will be a Heisman candidate this year for sure. I don't know if he'll finish. It depends on Kansas State's record, but I think through midseason, people are gonna be talking about him in the Heisman race. So I really like him. Um, we mentioned Blake Chapin. I think he might be able to take Baylor into the playoffs.
That is
If
a hot take.
if they win the Big 12, I got them going 8-1 in the Big 12. I think they're gonna lose either Oklahoma or Texas. And then I think they win the Big 12 championship. I think they got a shot to get into the playoff. That's my hot take. Any more breakout? Want to say, I don't want to say Quinn Ewers. I'm gonna say Jordan Whittington. Keep an eye out on him from Texas. He got hurt last year. The year before that, he was arguably he was our best receiver the year before that. I think he's really good. He just can't stay healthy.
Yeah,
That's
I
his only
mean,
problem. He can't stay healthy.
you really have a two-headed monster there if you can have Jordan Whittington on the same
Mm,
field as Xavier Worthy. If you can get those two working together, it's an attack that, not a lot of secondaries are going to be able to handle. So,
so
Jordan Whittington, that's a good pick. Mine, Donovan Smith mentioned earlier, Dylan Gabriel. He is already like kind of an established college football player, but I think this is the year where he really turns a corner and becomes his own. Um, and then, man, for me, this last pick was a very hard one. I'm gonna, I I don't know if it's proper to call Spencer Sanders a breakout player. I don't know if that's
I mean,
fair.
you could. I think he didn't get any of the praise. I feel like for that Oklahoma State team, I feel like it was a lot about the defense, and people were saying they might have gotten further if it wasn't for him. I heard that a lot. So
Well,
I think that's
some of
fine.
that was earned. Spencer Sanders does have moments of very much inconsistency,
Hmm.
a lot of inconsistency. But he showed some moments of absolute brilliance. He did not have a good game in the Big 12 championship game at all. One of a very very poor passing game from OSU that game. Again, Baylor's defense was outstanding and is pretty much the biggest reason why they did win the Big 12 last year. But in the bowl game, in the Fiesta Bowl, he looked absolutely excellent. Spencer Sanders did. So I'm going to put Spencer Sanders in as one of my breakout players for this year. I think that he has an opportunity to really turn in the legitimate star. That's a hot take,
That is,
but
I'm not gonna lie. I was one of those. I was not big on. I was on the record. I said that Oklahoma State is the worst 10-11 win team I've ever seen play. Like, I was not high on them.
man, that defense. I mean, when you have a defense like that, especially in a conference like the Big 12 where you can shut down those offenses, I think that you deserve the praise. And I thought that OSU's wins last season were very much earned. But will they be able to follow that up? They've lost some talent. So Brennan
Yeah,
Presley,
I,
expect
I,
him.
I, I might be a bit salty because when I watched them play, I think they should have lost to Baylor. I remember Baylor had like 4 fumbles or something, and Oklahoma State barely won that game. They should have lost to Texas, but Warren decided to run for 200 yards. Texas
Yeah,
had them beat. It's just when I
and
watched
that's
them play, I wasn't impressed. But they won.
yeah.
So
Well, Jalen Warren, unfortunately for the Oklahoma State Cowboys, he is now gone.
he's gone.
Um, so but if there's any school that churns out running backs consistently, it is, besides Alabama, a low key one is Oklahoma State.
I agree.
Chuba Hubbard, Chris Carson, Jalen Warren,
I
and
agree.
I believe the guy's name is Dominic Richardson, who's going to be their number one back this year. Got a little bit of playing time. Uh,
Mhm.
not a breakout guy necessarily, but if Oklahoma State wants to continue to be a legitimate program, they have not won a Big 12 title in over a decade. So it's been rough. It's been rough sailing for them for sure. Can't remember. I don't even know what they. I think they had won a title when Brandon Whedon was there.
With
They
Justin
might. They,
Blackman, they might have. I'm not sure.
yeah, and Des Bryant, those guys. Yeah, Oklahoma State used to be cold, but um, I think that it is key that Spencer Sanders really does become a star this year. Um, this might not be a hot take. I know you got this one too. Uh, I'm all aboard the Deuce Vaughn train.
Mm.
I've watched this dude play for the past, what is he, a junior now?
Yeah,
So, yeah, the past 2 years, beginning in the COVID season 2020, he's been nothing but consistent. He's able to get off of guys. He's very slippery in the trenches, and I think he's able to. He's not the biggest dude in the world. I mean, he's not gonna, but he's so agile and is able to tread through defenses, and I think that he is the biggest part of what will make uh, Kansas State successful this year. Not Adrian Martinez. I'm sorry.
yeah, I agree. My last hot take is that Texas will win 10 plus games. Granted, I know I'm unbiased, unbiased hot take. We
I
get
don't
to
know
10
about
plus,
I don't know about unbiased.
including the bowl win. I'm including the bowl win. We get
Well,
to
you got to
10.
make it. All right, all right, all right. I mean, okay, so you're all right. So you're telling me that they are going to win. So if we're saying 10 wins here, so you're chalking up those losses to Alabama and to OU, I'm assuming. And you're saying 11, or if it's, okay, so if you're including the bowl win, so you're giving yourself a little bit of flexibility there. So you're
Yes.
saying that they will finish with either 9 or 10 wins in the regular season.
Yes.
Man, well, I'm sorry, but like with that defense, like yeah, I get it. You have Overshone coming back, and he's a big part of your
Hmm.
defense, and Jamison too. But I don't understand how you're getting here. Your math isn't quite making sense to me.
mean, I feel like it checks out. We can if the key is we have to beat either Oklahoma or Baylor. We can't lose to both.
No, I agree.
And
And
if we do that, I don't know. I think 10 wins is reasonable.
saying 10 wins is reasonable though, man. Like
A reasonable hot take, not a reasonable like.
I don't even know if that's a reasonable hot take, bro. I
You
mean
don't
that
think
is
so?
scorching. That is scorching. No,
Is
I
it?
do not think so.
So can we go through the schedule? I want you to tell
Absolutely.
me if it's a win or loss. Okay.
Absolutely. I'll do
First
it.
one, ULM.
Win.
Win. Alabama,
L.
L. UTSA,
Win.
win. So we're 2-1 going to conference play at Texas Tech.
Win. And I think it's not going to be the blowout that it was last year, but win.
Okay. At West Virginia at home.
Win.
Okay, we're 4-1.
Okay.
At Oklahoma in Red
L.
River. L.
Yes. I do not think that Texas has, like we were talking about before, Texas is a very young team.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that, so for you to be setting this reasonable hot take of 10 wins is that is blasphemous to me. Like that is crazy.
Let's finish it. Let's finish.
All right.
Let's finish. We're 4-2. Okay. Iowa State.
When I was predicting these games, L. I have
L.
Iowa State taking that game in Austin.
Oklahoma State.
Man, see, this is another one of those toss-up ones. When I was doing my predictions, I have this as an L for Texas.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I have y'all. No, I have you dropping. I have you dropping 3 straight. I do.
That's OU, Iowa State, Oklahoma State. Okay.
But the good news is I have you winning out.
4-4. So we're 4-4. So at Kansas State, you got us winning that. And you guys being TCU, Kansas, and Baylor.
Mm-hmm. I have you winning. I have you winning out after that.
Okay,
I think that
8-4.
I think 8-4 is very, very reasonable.
8-4. You don't think we can win one more game? It's not a hot take. We can win one more game than that. Then we get the bowl game win and we're at 10.
Okay, no, I was talking about 10. I was talking about 10 wins regular season. That is crazy talk.
No, that's crazy. No. I'm talking about plus the bowl. We can go 9-3.
Yes.
Bowl game win, 10 win season.
Okay, yes, that could happen. But the thing is that, I mean, Texas, like, you can tell me I'm right on this too. Because of the amount of like coin flip games that are going to be happening in the Big 12 this season,
mm-hmm.
Texas could go 6-6. They could go 10-2. It could be these little things that change within a game. But I think that 8-4 is the most reasonable pick for Texas this year. And if you
I agree with that. 100%.
If you are setting a marker for success and building your program to be better, you need to hit 8 wins this year. Anything more than that, great. That's a huge improvement. But if you fail to reach 8 wins, Sark's going to be on the hot seat regardless of what goes on in recruiting, because you cannot have the level of talent that they have and just do nothing with it.
I agree. I agree that 8 wins is definitely you have to get 8. Will he be on the hot seat? I'm not sure, because I think the boosters want Arch Manning in orange. I don't see them letting him go and losing Arch Manning too.
But here's the thing, though, is what if Arch Manning is discouraged by what he's seeing the team doing on the field?
Oh, if Arch Manning leaves, and then he's gone too. See, Arch Manning is his safety net. Right,
well, see, that's y'all's thing, is like, you got to leverage, what means more to, I mean, obviously Arch is probably going to matter more to you than anything at this point. So I think that the big thing is for Texas to get to 2023 showing improvement. So if you guys hit 8 wins, I think that there's a lot of reasons to be positive, and then we can start talking about 10 wins. But let's pump the brakes a little bit.
10-win regular season is not going to happen this year. I misspoke. I think 8-4 is fine. If we lose to Oklahoma, Iowa State, and Oklahoma State 3 straight weeks, I might be on suicide watch.
Yeah,
last
I will
year,
be I will be carefully if you guys are trailing during that Kansas game, I will be watching like a hawk on your Twitter timeline, because man, when y'all lost last year, it was just pure joy, man.
Not for me. Last year was rough.
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
Who you got for the New Year's Six?
All right, so I have two Big 12 teams going into the New Year's Six. I think
Interesting.
Oklahoma. Yeah, I have Baylor and Oklahoma going into the New Year's Six. I
So
think
that
that
means you
it's.
have one team going to the playoff then.
I don't think Big 12. I don't know that the Big 12 puts up a playoff team. I don't know. I think it's really going to be because the thing is that you have a team like USC with in the Pac-12 with one of the easiest schedules that I've ever seen a
So
football team have
easy.
to play.
So
I mean,
easy.
it is if they do not make the college football playoff this year, absolute failure.
That's bad. They should win
So
10. They should win 10 games.
absolutely, if they should maybe go undefeated. I mean, I believe that they play Notre Dame, and that's the only
At,
difficult.
at Utah is tough, but other than
At
that,
Utah will be tough, but I think that USC will be able to win that game. But so we might be getting a Pac-12 team in this year, which means that
mhm.
somebody's going to have to go. And I think we're probably going to get two SEC teams again in with Bama and Georgia. I wouldn't be shocked to see it again. Probably going to get Ohio State in from the Big Ten. So someone's gonna have to go. So that's why I think that the Big 12 does not put a team into the playoff this year.
Okay. So who are your New Year's Six teams then?
Overall, or from the Big 12? Because I couldn't tell you off the top of my head who
Oh, okay.
overall I would have.
I think Baylor represents the Big 12. I'll give you my overall. I got Baylor, USC, because I think, like you said, the schedule is just so easy. Alabama, I think they're gonna be looking for revenge. Ohio State, I mean, come on. Wake Forest. The ACC
Wake
was tough.
Forest.
ACC was tough.
Yeah,
I'm
well,
going Wake Forest. I almost
it's a
went Clemson. It was a toss up.
I know, but I think I'd put Clemson in there over Wake Forest. They got
Think
Kate
so.
Klubnik coming in. I think that it's a huge improvement over DJU. Um, you know, So I do think that Clemson finds its way back into the picture this year. Not a playoff team, but definitely somebody knocking on the door.
Yeah, I was close. I won't Wake Forest for now, but who knows? And then the if Houston wins the American, they get a New Year's Six bid too.
That is a good
So
pick, and I know that you
I
are
think they
a
win the American.
I know that you are a supporter of U of H. So
I am.
that is, it might be a homer pick, but if they win the American,
I
if
think
they,
we by far have the best team.
yeah, if they
Yeah.
if they win the American, wouldn't be shocked at all to see them in there. It seems like the Americans been able to put teams um into the New Year's Six quite consistently out of the group of five. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting year for the Big 12 for sure. I'm obviously extremely excited. There's no conference more up for grabs. It's anyone's game this year. It's gonna be the last year of the Big 12 as we've known it for
Yes.
the past decade. So um, because it looks like we're gonna get a 2023 with 14 teams. So very excited to see how this season unfolds. Do you have any closing thoughts?
Like you said, I'm excited. I'm ready. Texas is gonna be back. We're gonna beat Alabama.
See, you can't even see it. You can't even keep a straight face while saying that.
If we beat Alabama, I'll be so obnoxious. But
All right, you know what? That's fair. You could be obnoxious. Listen, when we beat Alabama last year, I was obnoxious too. So,
as you should be.
I give anybody full permission to be able to do that. And you know what? You guys would get a pretty good field rush out of it too. Uh,
Yeah.
so, and if there's one thing we haven't seen, it's Texas rushing a field in quite a while. So, um, I'm sure that you've just been anxious to see that happen again. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's an exciting conference. A lot of big stories, a lot of changes. The portal being utilized more than ever, especially in the Big 12 at those key skill positions like quarterback. Um, Real quick, a player under the radar who you believe is going to step up this year.
Player under the radar who I think is gonna step up. I'm trying to not to take a
Be as
homer
biased. No,
pick.
you can take a homer pick. You can take a homer pick.
Okay, this is somebody that you may not know, but you will know his name very soon. Um, Nair from Texas, the wide receiver. I think he's going to be our deep threat, super fast. We have Xavier Worthy, obviously, and Jordan Whittington. I don't know if Whittington's going to be healthy. Him and Quinn Ewers have a real good connection. Keep an eye out on him. That's what I'm going with.
All right, yeah, that's a good pick. I like that. I like your rationale for it too. Not too big of a homer pick. So, like you said, Whittington stays healthy. He might not see as much playing time, but with him being sort of a wild card, that's a good pick.
What about you? Who you got?
Oh, a player under the radar in the Big 12, man. Okay. You know what? Jalen Daniels, talked about him before at quarterback for the Kansas Jayhawks. There might not be a whole lot of exciting stuff going on the field for the Jayhawks this year, but I do think that Kansas will finally have something to cheer about in football with Jalen Daniels. I think he will be exciting to watch, and he is a reason that I will be tuning into probably 10 minutes of Kansas football this entire season.
I do have another one. Oklahoma State Cowboys, Brennan Presley.
Brennan Presley, absolutely. Yes.
I think he only had like 600 yards receiving or something last year.
He showed a lot of flash. A lot of flash though. Tay Martin was obviously their number one, but
I think if like you said, if Spencer Sanders can make that jump, I think he's going to have to be the guy somebody has to catch the ball. I think it's going to be him. So keep an eye on him. I like him a lot too.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, Adam, it's been a pleasure. Enjoyed doing this a lot. Best of luck to your Longhorns this season. Even though there's a lot of that. I mean, I said in this video, I'm going to be as unbiased as possible. And I'm not going to talk trash about UT for once. So, trying to be as fair as possible here. Good luck to your Longhorns this season. Been a pleasure. And do you have anything else to say?
Oh, man, thanks for watching. This was a long one, but college football is almost here. We're excited.
Yes, sir.
So, I'll let y'all later.